Hey you guys, what's up? My name is Sydney. Welcome to my channel. Today's video is going to be a little bit different. I actually uploaded a video going over just my experience with different medications I've taken for anxiety and how that affected my weight. And that video seemed to help a lot of people, so I figured this video was overdue. Today I'm gonna be talking about just my experience in general with dealing with anxiety since a very young age. Yeah, this isn't clickbait. If you saw in the title, that's the age. And I apologize, there's birds chirping in the background. I guess it's a nice little ambiance. Just a few things up front. I apologize if this video seems a little bit jumbled. It's kind of difficult to talk about the last 15 years of my life in a concise manner, but I'm gonna try to. And also I can only speak from my personal experience and what I have learned from it. And if anything, maybe it shows you that you're not alone, or if you have a kid who's experiencing anxiety, just know I went through it as a child and I turned out fine. At least I think so. So let's get in with the video. I have had anxiety since the ripe age of 11, probably since the ripe age of 10, but I've been medicated for my anxiety since the age of 11. I am currently 25. I'm gonna be turning 26 in October, so I've been medicated for over half of my life, and I have not taken any lapse in medication. I've consistently been on medicine for my anxiety. So I'll take you guys all the way back before I was even medicated. Probably, this is elementary school, we're thinking actually kindergarten. We're thinking 5 years, since I was 3 years old. Definitely more 5 years old. To 10 years old. This is how my anxiety manifested itself. Every single day, my mom would drop me off at the bus, and before I got into the bus, I would ask her a series of questions. I would say, Mom, what if I don't feel good at school today? She's like, you're fine. What if I don't feel well and the teacher doesn't let me go home? What if my stomach hurts? What if something bad happens? I would literally rattle off a list of what ifs to her before I got onto the bus. And it was like a convincing game every day that she had to do to me to tell me that I was gonna be okay and everything was gonna be fine. I think what the what if game with the sickness came from is there was one day in kindergarten where I vomited in the toilet and my teacher didn't believe me and wouldn't let me go home, because before that point, every single day I would come to school with a stomach ache. So it was kind of just like the girl that cried wolf, I guess. She didn't believe me. So the one day I actually did vomit, I wasn't allowed to go home. And I think I was coming to school every single day with a stomach ache, not feeling well because I was so anxious, and I guess that just wasn't a known factor yet. So my anxiety was manifesting itself in physical symptoms from kindergarten all through my elementary school experience. And then I'll bring you guys to the age of 10 or 11, and this is when I started having panic attacks. So what that was like for me is my panic attacks would obviously manifest themselves physically. So I would have a hard time breathing. My heart rate would be out of this world. It was so fast. I thought I was going to die. I couldn't breathe. I was on my mom's lap just telling her I feel like I'm going to die. I don't know what's wrong with me. And it would just come out of nowhere. I would just be upstairs in my bed trying to go to bed, and all of a sudden my heart rate would be racing, my throat would be closing up, and I couldn't breathe. It was just out of nowhere. No reason, nothing to cause it. My parents put off putting me on medication for a while because obviously I was only 10 or 11 when this started, and they had some reservations with medicating such a young child. But the panic attacks weren't stopping, the anxiety wasn't stopping. So that is when the decision was made for me to get on some sort of medication to help. So I got my medicine from my family doctor. I've never been to a psychiatrist or a therapist. I just got it from my general practitioner, and he put me on amitriptyline. I don't know what dosage I was on, probably a teeny dosage. So amitriptyline is what I started on, and I was on amitriptyline from the age of 11 until 20. So I was on that medicine for 9 years, and I think it worked relatively well. I still did have some anxiety after getting medicated. I still would be anxious in bed at night thinking everyone's gonna die, the world's gonna end, even after I got an amitriptyline, but it wasn't manifesting itself in a panic attack anymore. So at that point, my parents got me a little DVD player that I played SpongeBob DVDs on to kind of take my mind off of everything. So I had the whole 1 through, I forget what seasons were out back then, maybe 1 through 5 seasons of SpongeBob on my DVD, and I would just watch those DVDs every single night until I fell asleep. So that was really good just to keep my mind off of things so I didn't get myself into an anxious spiral. Also, I want to preface this video with I had like the best childhood ever. Even though I had anxiety, my childhood was so good that I don't want to grow up. Like that's the reason I have Peter Pan syndrome, is because I just want to be a child forever, which is weird because I did have a lot of anxiety, but my parents did not do anything to cause this. Nothing traumatic happened to me. I just have like some kind of chemical imbalance in my brain. There's like no environmental factors that cause this. It's kind of just what I was born with. So it's not like I had to work through some trauma to get over my anxiety. It's just kind of the cards I was dealt. So then after I got medicated, how old are you when you're 11? What is that, like 5th grade? I got medicated and I was still really anxious in bed. So I was watching SpongeBob and that helped me. I feel like I was most anxious at night at that point. And then in middle school, I feel like my anxiety really manifested itself in my schoolwork. I was type A perfectionist. Everything had to be my way, done exactly how I wanted it to be done, or else I would freak out. I was a perfectionist to the T. I was studying constantly. In middle school, all through college, I just was always studying, which is crazy for a middle schooler. I feel like I would get home from school at 2 p.m. and I would study until I went to bed at like 9 p.m. That is just what I did. So I feel like my anxiety really was concentrated in schoolwork for this part of my life. I loved studying. It was like my favorite thing. I really excelled at school. I would not allow myself to not do well at school. If I got below an A, it was like the end of the world for me. So, I mean, in that sense, my anxiety wasn't so bad. It really held me accountable. I had a lot of intrinsic motivation to just do well just because I knew what I was capable of, and I was not gonna let myself not do well. My schoolwork, I was really into that all through high school. High school, I continued to study from the moment I walked into the door until I went to bed. I got a 4.0 in high school and I took a bunch of AP classes. So that's unweighted. With my AP classes, like you get 7 points for AP classes. I think my cumulative average was like 104 or something for all of high school. My anxiety definitely played in my favor here, but that's definitely how my anxiety manifested in high school. I was super type A, loved studying, was a perfectionist, and I just needed everything to be perfect. What can I say? That might be a lot more about just my personality and a lot less about my anxiety. I don't know. And then when I went to college, still the same thing. I loved to study. I was always studying. But I went to Georgia Tech and I was a chemical engineering major. I feel like there was one test in college that kind of flipped my mindset a little bit. It was in thermodynamics 1 or 2, I think it was Thermo 1. I got a really bad grade on a test. I tried my hardest. I panicked during the test. I would just get super anxious during tests, and while I was taking the test, I would be sitting there, and instead of focusing on the questions, I would be thinking of how I was gonna fail and how that was gonna ruin the rest of my life. So this whole time I'm sitting at the test, sitting at it, not answering any questions, I'm just spiraling in my head about all the adverse effects that this test is gonna have on my life. Needless to say, I didn't do well on this test and I was really upset about it. I remember I was in the Culk, I was sobbing on the phone to my mom, but you know what I learned from that? I survived. It was fine. I still got a B in the class even though I didn't do well on that one test, and the world still spun. Nothing crashed and burned, and everything still continued on. So I think that one test really taught me that as long as I do my best and I know I put in my best effort, that's all I can really do. And past that, it's kind of out of my hands. After that test, sophomore year, I still tried really hard. I still studied constantly in college. I'm not saying my studying habits changed at all, but I was less anxious during tests and I was a lot better at coping if maybe I got below an A on a test. I mean, I was still anxious, still trying really hard. I still did well in college. I graduated from Georgia Tech with highest honors in chemical engineering. So I still did really well, but I just wasn't putting as much pressure on myself. Like all I could do was my best. And then past that, I take the test. If I don't do as well as I wanted, there's nothing else I could have done. I studied as hard as I could have, so I just had to deal with that. Also, I just want to preface this. My parents never put pressure on me to do well in school. ever. If anything, they were telling me that I needed to stop studying. They were telling me to take a break. They were telling me I was fine, not to worry about it. So I was putting all the pressure on myself. My parents put none on me because they knew I was doing my best and I was putting enough pressure on myself as it was. So that's why in college, I was always calling my mom about every single test I had coming up because I knew that she would comfort me. Every time I would call her in college, I would have like a freak out. I would be crying on the phone to her, acting like it's the end of the world. I'm gonna fail this test. I'm gonna have to change my majors. I'm gonna fail out of school, yada, yada, yada. It was like existential shit every time I called her. So she would get like tight chested whenever I called her just because I was so tight wound about school. And I think that's a lot to do with my anxiety. So like I mentioned, I was on amitriptyline all the way from like 11 to 20 years old. So I was in college at this point. I think I was a sophomore or junior. I think I was a sophomore. And I just realized that my medicine wasn't working for me anymore. I was super anxious all the time. I was super angry. It was like anything would set me off. Didn't matter how small it was, I was getting really angry about it. My medicine wasn't working for me anymore. I mean, I was on it for 9 years. It kind of makes sense, your body changes. So that's when I started looking into different medication with my doctor, obviously. And that's when I got put on Wellbutrin. During this time in my life when I was super angry, everything was just the end of the world for me. Everything would set me off. Honestly, we kind of learned that my anxiety also had a little bit of depression sprinkled in there, and I think my depression was manifesting itself as anger. And that's probably something a lot of people don't know with depression. A lot of people probably think if you're depressed, you're just really sad, or maybe you're just really unmotivated and you can't get out of bed. But depression can also manifest itself in anger, which is what my experience was. That's when I started looking into different medicines with my doctor, and I got put on Wellbutrin. And I don't really know where to take you guys from here because I do have that video where I talked about my medicine journey with weight loss, and I kind of talked about how medicines worked with my mental health in that video as well. So I'll just give you like a little bit of a brief synopsis. I was on Wellbutrin. It did not work for me at all. It worked for my depression, but I was 400 times more anxious. I was constantly thinking about death. Constantly, that was what was on my mind. I was like constantly crying because I thought everyone's gonna die. I saw an ambulance pass me when I was driving, started sobbing about death. Yeah, Wellbutrin didn't help for me. It made me more anxious. And also I lost a crap ton of weight. I had no appetite. So from there, I went to Zoloft. Zoloft worked perfectly for me. My mental health was better than ever. I felt great, but I gained a bunch of weight. It's really frustrating at this time. I started working out a bunch. I couldn't lose weight no matter how hard I tried, and it was so frustrating. So I switched to meds again and stupidly went back to Wellbutrin. And you know, I should have known from the first time, it didn't work for me. I felt awful again mentally. I lost weight again, but I felt awful. The second time I went to Wellbutrin, my doctor and I decided to go to a different medication called Lexapro, and that's what I'm on now. And I've been on it for like 2 years, and it's been working great for me. I cannot stress to you enough how normal I feel now. It is crazy. I feel like I am almost like from like the type A-est of A's to like a type B now. Like, I feel like I am so chill. It is like I am like not the same person I used to be, which is crazy to me. My college boyfriends would not know who I am anymore. I am very different, and I think that's because I got a medication that actually works for me. I try my best still in everything that I do, but it's like past that, what else can you do? I used to be kind of controlling when I was really angry. I'm not controlling at all anymore. I'm a lot more take things with the flow. I mean, I don't take things with the flow, but I do more than I used to.
Hey you guys, it's me on the deck. I'm not naked, I'm tanning on the deck in my bathing suit. I completely forgot to mention that somewhere, like maybe around like senior year of high school, I also had such a fast heart rate that I went to cardiology and they decided to give me a medication to try to help with my heart issue. It was called sinus tachycardia. It's basically just a benign fast heart rate, but they were concerned that it was going to increase my blood pressure or something. So I had to go on medication for my heart like senior year of high school because my anxiety, I guess, was just causing me to have such a high heart rate. I am now off of that medication. It's honestly like senior year of college or or right after I got out of college. It's like all my anxieties went away, probably because there was no school anymore. So I'm no longer on it. But I vividly remember like 11th grade AP stat, we were doing some stat thing, and we had all the students had to put their heart rates on the board, on the whiteboard. And I put like 120 on the whiteboard, and all the other kids had like 80. And everyone's like, "Are you okay?" It's like, no, not really.
Still get anxious to this day. I mean, there's still days where I'm just sitting there watching TV and randomly I start thinking that everyone's gonna die. I still get anxious, but it's a lot less frequent. And when that does happen, it's a lot less detrimental to me. And I don't have any physical symptoms. I'm not having panic attacks or anything. I just am in my head sometimes. So all that to say, I mean, medication really worked for me. It does not work for everyone. I'm not telling you to take medicine. This is just my experience. But even though it works for me, you can't just take a pill and expect it to solve all of your issues. I still have to work through some things internally and kind of talk myself off a ledge sometimes. So you can't just take a magic pill. There is no magic pill. Sadly, you're still gonna have emotions. You're still gonna get sad. You're still gonna get angry. You're still human and you still have to work through these things. But the medicine has really brought me on a more even playing field with, I feel like, the average person who doesn't have anxiety. So I just have normal emotions now for the most part, I feel. If anything, if this video taught you, it's one, it takes a lot to find the right medicine. Most times you're not just gonna take the first pill and that be the right one for you. It's a lot of trial and error. And then two, there is no such thing as a magic pill. You're not just gonna be like happy all the time from taking a pill. We're still human, okay? You can't just be happy all the time. You still have to work through things, even if you are medicated. So yeah, that is really my story with anxiety. It's been 15 years long. And like I said, if you're more interested in hearing more in depth about the different medications I've taken and how they've affected my weight, since I know that's something that a lot of people are concerned about and that's something that affected me, it really sucks that you can't just take something to make your brain feel better without having adverse effects. You kind of have to weigh the pros and cons, but if you're interested in that, I do have a video on that. Also, don't come for my parents in the comments, okay? They're just doing their best, and I think they did the best because I'm very happy with the decisions they made for me, and I think everything has worked out great. So I don't need any hate in the comments. Thank you so much. Please just leave it be. So thank you guys for watching this video. If you guys have any questions, let me know in the comments down below. Also, if you guys just want to talk amongst yourselves in the comments, I'll respond as well. I just want this to be an open space. So yes, if you guys like this video, if you want more like this for me, let me know. It's weird, this is not really the kind of videos I usually upload, but if you guys like this, let me know and maybe I can do it a little bit more. I upload videos every single Wednesday at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, so you guys know where to find me, and I will see you guys next time. Peace out. Bye, haters. Peace.